Good evening. It is Thursday night. It is the Third and Long podcast, giving you your daily dose, or weekly dose even, of
Mm,
NFL gossip, talk, and reaction to what's coming up. Um, I do apologise. We are trying not to make it a 49ers podcast, but the last 3 weeks it's been dominated by 49er news. We've got Bosa's agent with him today, so yeah, we'll go over
yeah.
that one. Mr. Perrins, how are we? How is life in the fast lane for you, my friend?
Like going back to school, it's literally absolutely manic, and no teacher actually gets a good night's sleep the first week back at school because you're constantly on the go all the time. And it's bloody humid as well. I mean, the one benefit is my classroom has incredible air conditioning, so I'm not in
Mate,
like a
my
stuffy
office doesn't
classroom
even
like I know.
aircon.
Yeah, but like, see, I've got like all the film equipment and all the computers, so like my room is like just
uh,
has to be air conned, otherwise it's all
yeah.
going to break down. But yeah, it's been a lot of news coming out of the Bay. It's almost like the 49ers are a big team, and when they make the round, it's big news. It just happens to follow the old gold and red.
Oh yes. So yeah, it is just me and thee tonight because
Mm,
the other two have to work. They've got like pretend
allegedly,
jobs.
allegedly.
Pretend jobs, where you don't have to get up at stupid o'clock in the morning and you can come home at a decent time and talk about American football. I mean,
Mm.
hopefully it won't be two of us too often. Hopefully the four of us will be back on Monday because we do miss you
Yeah,
boys when you're not us. It is all
it's
good.
true.
It is all
I
good.
do.
But yes, let's lead with the Bosa news. Fire away with it, Mr. Perrins, as you are his
Now,
agent.
all right. So I knew it was going to be a big deal because Nick Bosa's agent is also the agent of Joey Bosa. And as I mentioned, like about like a month ago now, when we talked about like this negotiation, and at the time being, Joey Bosa had the NFL record for because for the same position for being an edge rusher. He structured a huge deal that he's still being
Yep.
paid for in for the Chargers. I nearly said San Diego, but in LA for the Chargers. So I knew coming into this that I'm not throwing shade at Joey Bosa. I think Joey Bosa is a really quality player. But Nick Bosa is different gravy. And coming off the back of Defensive Player of the Year, coming into that big contract season anyway, I think every 49er fan, and even if you're not a 49er fan, you just knew this was going to be a big deal. This was going to be the biggest news. And I think for the 49ers front office with Shanahan and Lynch, having had the massive fumble that has been how they've dealt with Trey Lance, they kind of had to get this deal done. I don't think for their job's sake or their morale going into this season that they had to get Bosa down. They had to, like, under no circumstance could you lose out on fumbling Trey Lance and then the same offseason you fumble and don't get, for the sign on the dotted line for Nick Bosa. So now I feel a lot more confident. Now I can actually feel confident buying my Nick Bosa jersey for my birthday, knowing that he will be a 49er for the next 5 years. It's interesting as well that huge amount of cap space was shifted through the renegotiation of Trent Williams and George Kittle's contracts that had to be done by 4 p.m. yesterday for the NFL cap space deadline before they could actually announce that Nick Bosa big fat contract extension. I think it's great news for the 49ers, but I think it still means that it has to be a must-win season for them. I think it's huge
Yep.
that they have to at least get to, I don't even say at least get to Super Bowl, but they have to win the Super Bowl. Everything that they've done for the last couple of years since the last time they were in the Super Bowl has built up this specific moment. So it's huge because if we don't win now, you're going to think that in a couple of years' time, when these contracts do actually, need to be paid, the 49ers stacked roster might actually be dwindling. Because
Yeah,
if you
I
think
mean,
about it, yeah, go
he's
on.
been the sack leader or thereabouts for the last 2 or 3 seasons now.
Mm.
He is, me and Ollie, I've always taken the mick out of Ollie and always tried to wind him up um, about the Chase Young situation.
Mm.
Chase Young could have been a Nick Bosa style player, but he's had the injuries. But
Yeah.
Nick Bosa is, like you said, he's different gravy from anyone else in that
Oh yes,
position.
yeah. I
You
mean,
know,
when fit, it is terrifying. Like what I mean, I'm saying this as a 49er fan that I love the fact that he plays for us because if he was playing against us, he would probably put every single quarterback that we have permanently in a wheelchair. But that's why I'm grateful that he's a 49er, that he plays in the red and gold as opposed to the silver and black, or he plays in, Kansas for the Chiefs. Like, I'm very, very grateful that he's a 49er and will continue to be a 49er for the next 5 years.
Shano says he's wishing us a great show and he'll be back soon. You better be back soon, Mr. Harris. Don't want you crying on Monday when you guys lose. Yeah, I mean, he's a great player. I mean, he's had 43 sacks in the last in his 4 years in this league. Let's not forget,
Yeah,
2 seasons he didn't, or 1 season he didn't actually really play because he played 2 games when you lost pretty much your
hmm,
whole defense
yeah,
in like a game in MetLife, wasn't it?
yeah.
He's racked up 116 tackles on his own in the league. He is a wrecking ball machine, uh, and it's brilliant. um, yeah, I want you to argue that one. Behave. Bosa ain't getting near Jimmy G.
Yeah, because Jimmy G won't be on the field. He,
Yeah.
he can't he can't even get a game for the Raiders, and that's how bad they're. I mean, we'll come on to Raider news a little bit later on, John. I'd love to hear your opinion on what's going on with Chandler Jones and Josh McDaniels doing Josh McDaniel things as a head coach.
Yep.
Um, but no, it's great news for the 49ers. I actually think from like a PR point of view, I saw like a couple of things tweeted out. It would have been really, really cool on Sunday that as the team comes out, he's the last one to come onto the field, but before he comes on, he's signing that contract on the big screen, and then he runs out onto the field. That would have been that would have been quality. But
That would have
it,
been actually rather good. I'd take that one all day long. That would be quite. That's quite a cool thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, it
You
would be a
know,
cool thing to do if he did it and then we won, and then he got a couple of sacks on Kenny Pickett. But it doesn't look as cool if he does it and then we don't win. So you kind of like backing yourself there to actually get the job done there. But Nick Bosa signing his extension with the 49ers. I mean, I've said in the past about like the Raiders and the Davises not being afraid to splash the cash. The 49ers have done the exact same thing under the leadership of like John Lynch, where at the time they gave Jimmy Garoppolo the biggest contract for a quarterback in the NFL. They've done the same with Juice. They've done the same at one point with Fred Warner. They did the same with George Kittle. These were like all record setting or resetting for skilled positions in that particular format. Trent Williams is still, I think, the highest paid tackle in the NFL. Okay,
yeah.
so they've forked out
Yes.
top tier market value for positional players on that team. And it'll be interesting in the offseason next year. I mean, Deebo Samuel as well. Deebo Samuel was, set the record for. Actually, no, I don't think he was the highest paid wide receiver. I think he was just in and around that kind of like area. But next year as well, they're going to really think about what they're going to do with CMC about like his potential contract negotiation, his extension. But that'll be a question for February, March time.
April,
But
May.
we're
Yeah.
about to go into the like the season, and it's starting to look a little bit more positive for the 49ers.
Yeah. I mean, you've got some star-studded players in that team by an absolute mile. I mean,
Yeah,
you've got probably what should be the best franchise roster.
yeah,
It helps that your starting quarterback is a seventh-round pick, so your wage is nothing for a quarterback, effectively.
yeah,
Not not what you would have been paying for Trey Lance or Mac
yeah.
or Trevor Lawrence or any of that lot, anything. But your team is stacked in places, but there is a couple of weak places. Every team has weak places.
Yeah, I think with the 49ers weaknesses, and because they've all gone stacked out in so many key positions, I think if there's any injuries on the offensive line, there's massive question marks about who can step up. Ever since the Super Bowl when we lost to the Ravens, our secondary has always been a weak link, and losing not Jimmy Garoppolo, Jimmy Ward in free agency will hinder how strong that secondary is. But we've still got like Travarius Ward, we've still got Hafanga, um, you know, but yeah, I honestly think the 49ers weaknesses lies in O-line depth and the secondary because if you've got a quarterback that can pass, i.e. Not that well. I don't think the 49ers are playing the Jets this year. We are not playing the Jets, but like a passing style quarterback that you not necessarily can get the pressure on could
Yeah,
potentially destroy our secondary. But
I do think your weakest position's at linebacker. past Greenlaw and Fred Warner, you've got not a lot there.
Yeah, I mean, we lost Al Shire to free agency as well.
Yeah.
And I really, really rated him, but he deserves to be a starter where he is. But I'm a big fan of Fred Warner. I think Fred
Yep.
Warner brings so much. Like, he's a linebacker, but he plays like one. Like, he plays almost like secondary, but also outside linebacker as well. He can be all over the place, and he's still young. I thought Fred Warner was a lot older than I actually realized that he was, because I generally thought like, oh, Fred's got to be like 29, 30, like he's coming towards the end of his NFL career. No, he's 26.
26.
I know. I was just like, Jesus Christ, he's going to be with us for at least the next 5 years.
Oh, you would hope so, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Kind of thing. There is other bits of news. There is a couple of players who stepped away from the league. Carl Rudolph, after 12 years in NFL, the tight end, former Notre Dame tight end, spent majority of his time with Minnesota Vikings, falling onto Giants for a season and ending up at Tampa Bay. Two-time Pro Bowler, 50 touchdowns, just shy of 7,800 yards receiving. Could have been so much better. Could have had so much a better career.
I mean, yes, I always rated Carl Rudolph. He's a year older than me. It's my birthday next week. He's a year older than me, and even when I used to play Madden on franchise modes years ago, I would always trade to bring Carl Rudolph into the team. I've always rated him. He's been a solid tight end. Like you said, he's been a solid tight end without necessarily being a superstar like a Kelsey or a Kill, or a Pitts. But yeah, he was on that Minnesota Vikings roster for 9 years. He's very, very highly thought of still in Minnesota. I mean, I've been following like a couple of social media like lists and posts from just like the Minnesota Vikings camp, and they are, happy, or I want to say like proud to have him play for like their team, because he was well liked, and he's played with like Teddy Bridgewater. He played with Cousins. I think he missed out on Brett Favre. No, he definitely did miss out playing with Brett Favre. But like
by a good few years.
He's played with some top quality players. And like even like his 1 year in like New York and playing with like in Tampa Bay last year. So he's been around the league. He's not Hall of Fame worthy, but
No.
I wouldn't be surprised if he goes into like the inner circle of like or the what do they call it when the team's actual Hall of Fame?
Yeah, the circle, the ring effect, the ring, isn't it? Something like that. Every team has a different name of it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the Minnesota, like genuinely, because he was solid. That's all I got to say. Thank you for your contribution to the NFL in your 12 years in the league, and we wish you a very, very merry retirement and whatever venture that you go into next. I really hope it's for the best, Carl, because underrated, did his job, never got into any controversy, and I've never heard anything bad about him.
No one. And it's the same like this gentleman here, Carl Nassib, first openly gay player in the NFL. So he came out, last year, 2 years ago? 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
2 years ago now, wasn't it? When he was playing for Las Vegas, not long after he signed a massive deal. He's played for Cleveland, Tampa Bay twice, and Las Vegas. He's a good player. It's 25 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. He's another one who didn't quite hit the heights that he could have made.
Yeah.
He's a good player, and he set that benchmark now of like a professional athlete of this caliber of sport has openly come out. I think we spoke about it when it was like when it first came out. There's always this stigma. I mean, you've watched Ted Lasso, so you know what it's like when Colin came out to his team. There's always this stigma around, homophobia, and it always is the same in football. Jonathan, no, I'm not wearing an LA Rams jersey. It is a Raging Bull, Phil Vickery's brand. If you're watching, Phil, we are open for some sponsorship.
just going back and even though the sport is considerably more open-minded in terms of like homosexuality and accepting other people's views and other people's lifestyles, you and this is not, and I'm just going to say, I'm not trying to be controversial at all, but you're still in that very competitive jock environment, aren't you? Where
Yeah.
it's very, very masculine, and no matter how things have like, de-escalated, people are a lot more accepting, people's viewpoints have changed, they've evolved, they've moved on, but that locker room, talk, that locker room relationship. I mean, we see it like in fictional TV, like Ted Lasso, where you absolutely like when Colin came out and everyone was like, "Oh, that's brilliant! We're so happy for you." That's great, but that doesn't always happen. That doesn't always
No.
translate. And when you're a professional athlete as well, and I'm not even saying like when you play away games, or even like sometimes like home fans as well, when they will just chant things at you just to purely get under your skin, just to purely just throw you off your game, and it upsets you, it disrupts you, it stops you from doing your job. It makes you really, really think, is it worth it? Do I
Yeah.
actually need it? I've done something that is quite personal to me and putting it out there into the stratosphere. And now, even though I don't think that the people, all the people chanting homophobic slurs at me are trying to upset me, but it's having an effect on me. So whatever his reasons, again, I really wish him the best of life in his future
Yeah.
ventures.
Most definitely. He's a yeah, he was a really good player. I mean, he's like I said, I think, having those, he might have, because as you said, that mentality of people going, "Hey, he's out, he's out, he's out.
Yeah,
Let's give him a load of crap."
yeah,
I think might have hindered him a little bit and gone, "I just want out. I just, sorry for the bad wording. I just want to stop playing."
yeah.
It might have been just that. You don't know what it was like down in Tampa. We don't know what it was like because I've not seen him over here had to play. So I don't. Yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
You want to talk about one of the Joneses?
Yeah, I want to talk about Chandler Jones because um, it's quite the change. I mean, for anyone that doesn't know, a couple of days ago, news broke that Chandler Jones, all over his Instagram stories, was slating the Las Vegas Raiders for allegedly locking him out of the building. And then he went on like this tyrant about like how he, doesn't like the place, he hates the place, blah 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 blah. But like it was, they've locked me out of the building. Why has the team that I'm a big part of, who've paid me a lot of money, why are they locking me out of the team? So the media, the NFL media in particular, were like full on the back of like Josh McDaniels, full on the back of Mark Davis. And don't forget, Josh McDaniels has a history, especially in Denver. And you ask any Denver Broncos fans, he is not well liked there because he seemed as almost like a toxic head coach where he will isolate players. He will belittle certain players to kind of like elevate himself because I think he's got like small man syndrome, or that's how he thinks he needs to operate. So you kind of like see this and go, oh my God, what on earth is going on in the Raiders organization? They're cash strapped anyway. You've got players that are not fit enough to play but on fat contracts, i.e. Jimmy Garoppolo. Sorry, Raiders fans, we did tell you. And then all this stuff that's come out with Chandler Jones. So, and then 24 hours later, after he's gone on this social media rant, it's actually come out that the Raiders had actually sent a crisis team to his household because it's come out that he has had a bit of a mental breakdown and he is acting very, very irrationally to the point where he is deemed to be not safe to himself. But like he was still posting all these like rantish kind of like things going off on one. But like, even Josh McDaniels came out today in his media interview saying that we believe Chandler Jones is having a bit of a mental breakdown. We have got the crisis team involved. So there's more to the story in terms of McDaniels is an absolute sociopath and the Raiders are a massive bonfire. Chandler Jones is going through something now. I don't know if you remember a couple of weeks ago the story that came out about Jimmy Graham, and I saw Jimmy Graham on the Pat McCaffrey show talking about like how he's got a new lease of life, how he feels completely fresh. And then about a week or 2 weeks later, he was found stumbling down going down the highway, and a crisis team had to pick him up and take him to the hospital because he had also had a bit of a mental breakdown. So it's a lot of, well, two stories in particular, two huge stories in particular that's come out about players. Now, doing a bit of digging, Ollie, I don't know if you know this, but Chandler Jones has a history of doing things like this because he had a similar
Yep,
issue in New England.
he did
And
indeed.
it got to the point where, and Bill Belichick was like going, "I don't need you, goodbye," and he got rid of him. And he seems to be something very similar is coming out or happening again with Chandler Jones. So again, the Raiders being Raiders, I don't think this is what they potentially need going into the season where there's a lot of pressure on them anyway. They've
No,
spent big, they can't afford to do anything else. They're kind of stuck where they are because of the expenses for their stadium, paying Jimmy Garoppolo. They can't, like Mark Davis cannot afford to fire Josh McDaniels. So no matter what happens in Vegas this year, Josh McDaniels is not going anywhere. He is stuck
I don't know how many years
there
he's got
unless
on
he
his
walks
contract,
away.
McDaniels.
I want to say
Yeah, I
he's got
don't know.
4, and he's in the second of 4.
Possibly, yes. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but yeah. I mean, I we've talked about mental health in the NFL
Yeah,
so many times. But, it's going on about how the NFL, and I will stand by this. I generally don't think the NFL does enough for mental health. I generally
no,
don't. Um, yes, they're bringing on these skull caps in training, and there's talk of bringing them into actual games to protect the brain and all that because of concussion, etc., etc., etc. But you've got to look after the player's well-being. Look after.
yeah,
Yes, brilliant. The Raiders are going out, going right. We'll just get a crisis team to just make sure he's all right. Um, but the NFL needs to do more.
yeah,
Mental health is massive at the moment, and it has been for years and years and years. It is something that needs to be looked at on their side of it. A lot of players have do stupidity. I mean, look at Jack Jones a few weeks ago with the guns. Okay, yes, he's all charges have been dropped apparently, which is ridiculous. But mental health is a massive thing with these players. They're getting hit massively. You'll see things on social media. They're going to get trolled left, right, and centre. They need to look after their players, their assets.
yeah.
Um,
And I think sometimes this is where, as great as we love the NFL draft, as much as we love the NFL draft, I think sometimes it gets, it's almost like a cure for, oh, this player, he's injury prone, he's had quite a lot of, concussions to the head, he's quite a lot of injuries. It's right, because we're going to get a new toy next year. So it's
yeah,
kind of like, not like, what have you done for me lately, but it's like, for instance, our defensive end, he's played with us for many, many years. He's not as good as he used to be. He's still a really good leader, but he's starting to act a little bit weird, and he's had a few hits to the head, but we're potentially going to get a new one next year anyway. So that's just kind of like, just keep it ticking over. I agree with you. I don't think the NFL does enough. And for a multi billion dollar company, because that's, remember, that is the sole reason why our NFL commissioner still has a job, because the other 32 teams in the league have agreed to keep him because he is
yeah,
really good at making them money. As soon as he stops making them money, that's when they would vote him out. That's when they would not, renew his contract. So as long as the team selfishly are making money, and it's not a necessarily overly bad PR. I mean, the fact that they had to forcibly remove Schneider from Washington says how much the NFL actually care about their ownership and their teams, let
yeah,
alone the individual players themselves. I mean, we lost Andrew Luck because he was, completely beaten out of the league. Peyton Manning broke his neck, and the NFL did not blink. The Colts did not blink, because when Peyton Manning was out with a neck injury, having neck surgery, they drafted Andrew Luck without even
yeah,
thinking about, oh, what can we do to make sure Peyton's back all right? No, they already had his replacement drafted.
yeah. It's
Like
ridiculous.
Peyton was already gone. So yeah, I absolutely agree. They don't do enough, because I don't think, when it comes down to it, unless it's costing them an obscene amount of money, and not even bad PR, but like the money side of it, why would they invest? I do think maybe looking at better helmets. I don't necessarily, from an aesthetic point of view, the skull caps. I don't know how that would translate to real games. I think it's great for practice. I 100% think you should be using it in practice, like you would use it in
Completely.
practice in rugby. But I don't know how that would translate as effective in a real game. That's
Yeah.
just me being quite selfish, but I think maybe looking at better investment in helmets.
Yeah.
You will never be able to avoid helmet to helmet clashes, whether not purposely or,
No.
by accident. But I think maybe looking at improving the science behind helmet, and this is me not knowing anything about it, but I'm just thinking from like that point of view, how can we protect the head and neck in particular? But you
Mm.
know, we've talked about this as well. Antonio Brown was never the same after his head injury.
Massive hit, yeah.
And he has done some absolutely horrific things since. And it's brought up every time he does really, anytime any news comes out about Antonio Brown, and I'll stop talking about this in a second, but like any news that comes out about Antonio Brown, there's always one person in the comment section says, "Oh, he's never been the same since that hit."
Well, it's correct. He hasn't. I mean, it literally knocked him off his feet, and he did literally a 480-degree spin in the air. It was ridiculous. And I think he was rushed back. He wasn't looked after properly. I mean, this was what, 10 years ago now?
Yeah.
Must be nearly now. So it wasn't as much talked about as it is nowadays. But yeah, it's not the same. I mean, John's made a really good point here. It's saying I think mental health support is needed. Last week you were talking about draft players being the superstars and then not getting a contract. That is going to take its toll, and he's spot on. Absolutely spot on. You know, these players think, "Oh yes, brilliant, we've made it. We've got." Especially the first rounders, the first 10 picks are getting 30 million or 20 to 30 million.
Yeah.
You know, we looked at, if anyone sees the draft day film, the Seahawks talking about it. Oh, we're going to take it this way. We'll save us 7 million in cap space. That's how teams look at it.
Yeah.
How can we save money? And it's the same, like, oh, okay, brilliant. We've got Nick Bosa. We've got him on a £170 million contract. Yeah, this guy is 5 years younger, as athletic, as good, as quick, maybe a little bit as a quicker off step or something like that, but we can get him for 17 million for 5 years. Look at it that way.
Let's think about this for like selfishly from like the 49 point of view, because I'd love to hear your point of view from like the from the Patriots. We got rid of Jimmy Garoppolo, which was he was on an obscene amount of money. He was the highest paid quarterback in the league at one point. And then it's a toss up between Trey Lance and Brock Purdy. Now, forget about talent for a second, because we're not getting into that now, but Trey Lance was on his rookie deal. He was picked 3 overall, so he's on a massive chunk of change.
About 25 million, wasn't it?
Yeah. So he's gone, and now Brock Purdy is the starting quarterback. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if Brock Purdy is bottom 5 in terms of salaries on that squad. And
Easily.
Brock Purdy's going to be a captain leading the 49ers out onto the field on Sunday. And don't forget, last year he wasn't even the backup to begin with. He was the backup's backup.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's come.
He was on the practice squad, wasn't he?
Yeah, and in his first year, NFC Championship game, you've got like the whole of California kind of thinking like he's going to be the next big thing in that state. Like, forget Herbert, forget Stafford. Brock Purdy was the talk of time. I mean, you know, me and Ollie were talking about it quite a lot last year. He was that good, and I still think he's going to be really good this season. But he's cheap, and I'd love to hear your point of view from the Patriots' point of view. When you let Tom Brady go, okay, like Tom Brady leaves, he goes to the Bucks, and you draft Mac. Now, I think the jury's still out on Mac. I think he's a good quarterback, but whether or not he's Brady level, but they would have saved an obscene amount of money, wouldn't they, going from...
So Brady always signed a team-friendly deal. He did that at Tampa Bay. Signed the original, and then okay, let's remaster this contract so we can get X, Y, Z in. That's what Tom Brady does. And there's players out there like Lamar didn't do a team-friendly deal from Baltimore. Sorry, Shano, but he didn't. So that's where team players are. If they can have a team... a leader who can sign that team-friendly deal, get these players in. Like Mahomes, probably going to redo his contract in the next few years.
Yeah.
Because they're going to need bring players in. You know, like Kelsey's contract's up at the end of the season or end of next season. It's going to be interesting. But to have a quarterback who's Mac's money was nowhere near what Tom's is, because Mac went 15th overall.
Yeah.
His contract was about 15 to 14 million, 14 to 15 million. Can't remember the exact thing over the 5 years, so 2.5 million. Tom was on at least 10, probably about 6 times that, at least.
Yeah.
But Tom's incentives were very, very easy to get. Throw for 2,500 yards.
Yeah.
Throw XY touchdowns, throw this.
And
so that's how he did all that.
Yeah. I mean, the league has also been like littered, especially in our... it's weird when we think about it, Ollie, but like we've watched some of the greatest ever quarterbacks in the last 15 years playing the NFL.
Yeah.
But like Drew Brees never took a team-friendly deal. Aaron Rodgers never really took a team-friendly deal
until about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. Kirk Cousins never takes a team-friendly deal. So it's kind of like whether or not you want to. Ben Roethlisberger never took a team-friendly deal. So it kind of just trickles down to how much do you want to make compared to how much do you want to win. And
It's
Patrick Mahomes
interesting though.
strikes me as I want to win and I'm okay. I mean, Patrick Mahomes makes money anyway, regardless, and he's got a fat
Yeah,
contract, so he's always. I think he's guaranteed to make $1 billion over 10 years.
half.
Is it $500 million? I thought it was billion. My bad. He's guaranteed to make at least $500 million over 10 years. Yeah, like, of course you would. I wouldn't want anything more, but I'd want rings to go with it.
Yeah, I mean he's got 2 rings on it under this contract. He's had 2 rings.
Yeah.
But you look at Big Ben. Always complained that the team weren't doing the best, getting the best players, weren't doing this. Aaron Rodgers always complained about this. Drew Brees always complained
Yeah.
about players.
And I'm a big fan of Drew Brees, but Drew Brees never took a team-friendly deal. He was
No,
always me, 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 me. I am the
it's why
superstar.
he's
I am the
why he
leader.
left last San Diego, because don't forget he was a San Diego Charger before he was
I
a
remember.
Saint.
I remember.
It's the reason why he left, because New Orleans were going to pay him a load of money, and San Diego wanted him to take a deal.
Yeah.
Give us this, give us this, give us this. It's one reason why Tom Brady's always successful.
Mm.
First season in Tampa, yes, he signed a bigger contract than he was in New England. But if you look at the details of that contract, it was very team friendly.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a bigger signing bonus, but that's how he got it, and that's how he did. And that's what it is. Do you want money or rings?
Yeah. I mean, and I do think at some point, I mean, especially if you won quite a lot of rings in your early career, like Tom did, like Patrick did, you might go, well, my legacy is already secured. All I want to do now, and I'm going to make money, but I also want to win more. So, I mean, I shouldn't, but I do love Tom Brady. And I think the league is poorer without him in hindsight because he was that good. Like
Yeah.
he was that good. I mean, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is probably the closest to you see a player's name on that starting, on that starting side of the offense. And you go, oh crap, I'm playing against Tom Brady this week. And then you do the same thing going, oh, when the 49ers play the Chiefs, I'm going, oh crap, we're going to play against Patrick Mahomes. No, I'm not saying like, oh crap, we're playing against Travis Kelce. Oh crap, we're playing against like the Kansas City Chiefs. You're going, oh crap, we're playing against Tom Brady this week.
It's that winner's mentality.
Yeah. Whilst like, Aaron Rodgers, I'm like, oh, yes, we're playing against Aaron Rodgers. He's only ever beat us once in his career. Oh, get in. Oh, yes. We don't lose to, like the 49ers do not lose to Aaron Rodgers. It's just that kind of like that mental victory. But yeah, I'm all for. Depends what you want to do. Do you want to make money or do you want to cement your legacy and win championships?
Yeah.
I would probably settle for somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, you got to make a bit of money. Rodney, I'm guessing you mean about Hagtalika. Mr. Harris is working tonight, unfortunately. Can't join us.
Yeah.
Guys, we've actually got some proper football to talk about. It kicks off in about 4 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours.
True that.
Yeah,
can't
wait. It's starting at the reigning Super Bowl champions, who are going to unveil yet another flag. That's got to stop because they're slowly catching up. I know I have a very excited 2 children upstairs actually, because one's a Lions fan and one's a Lions fan and one's a Chiefs fan. Yeah, I mean, I think it does depend if Kelce suits up tonight. They are saying it's a game day decision. But the owner said, yeah, we know what Kelce's like. He'll probably be out there anyway with his new tash and everything. Yeah. We got some good games on Saturday. Obviously, we've got Baltimore, Houston, Cincinnati at Cleveland, Tampa at Minnesota, Tennessee at New Orleans, Carolina at Atlanta. Let's stop doing that one. Thank you very much. Screen goes off as I was reading the bloody things. You guys have got Steelers, Arizona against Washington. That is probably a battle for the number 1 pick. Green Bay against Chicago. That is going to be a really good game. That's going to be interesting.
I've got the Commanders potentially in a wild card spot. I don't think the Commanders are going to be bad. I think the 2 worst teams in the NFL are going to be both in the NFC West. I think it's going to be the Cardinals, and I think it's going to be the Rams.
I don't think the Rams are. I think the Rams will probably be a top 10 pick, but I don't think they'll be that bad. Um, then we got an NFC matchup of the Giants against the Cowboys, and obviously the big one on Monday night, Buffalo against the Aaron Rodgers New York Jets.
Do you not think? I mean,
Obviously,
I've got my eyes on a couple of tasty games.
yeah,
Um, Lions Chiefs tonight. Now, I don't think going into this season the Chiefs. I mean, they start slow anyway, and this is kind of like what's really frustrating because every year I go, "Oh, the Chiefs aren't going to win the Super Bowl this year," because they often start really slow with losing like a couple of really seemingly easy on paper games that they've actually lost. I don't think the Chiefs are going to be as strong this year, and that's why I'm potentially thinking that they're not going to win the Super Bowl. But
correct.
even though the Lions finished the season, on a really, really good note, I don't think the Lions are as good this year. So I think the Chiefs will win, but I think it's not going to be a high-scoring game or a blowout. I think it's going to be quite close. I always look forward to Packers Bears, and I think for the first time in a
Yeah.
long time, it's very even playing field between the
Oh
two of them.
yes.
There's
I
there's
just want to.
questions
I just want
around
to
how good Jordan
mention
Love is.
something
There's
really
questions.
quickly.
Go
Yes, John, you are correct. There is 4 different teams in this household. Patriots, Lions, Chiefs, and Bengals are all here.
on.
Yeah, I mean, I do like that one. It's going to be interesting now how Jordan Love, how that Packers offense can run under Jordan Love under center.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean,
and
I also think the NFL PR, or especially the Green Bay PR as well, have done a lot of protection over Jordan Love because I haven't heard anything negative about him other than that he's throwing good, the team love him. Like lots of really positive vibes coming out of Green Bay. There's been no bad leaks, there's been no bad PR or any bad ill or good feeling between them. It just generally seems like the NFL and Green Bay have done a really good job protecting Jordan Love,
yeah,
which we don't see quite a lot with young. I mean, I say young quarterbacks. He's not young. He's been in the league for a couple of years now, but they've done a really good job of protecting, Jordan Love going into his first season as a starter in the NFL. Because we definitely didn't see that kind of protection for Trey Lance. We haven't
nope.
seen that protection for Zach Wilson. I think Mac Jones has been like dragged over the coals quite a lot. Justin Fields definitely doesn't get that protection in Chicago. So it's quite nice just hearing nothing but good things about Jordan Love because I haven't seen enough of him to think whether or not he's going to be the heir apparent or is he going to be the starting quarterback that organization needs for the next couple of years? I don't know enough about him, but everything I keep hearing is like, oh, he's good. He's good. He's making his throws. Team likes him. He's got good vibes. I go, oh, I'm happy for him. But yeah, Bears,
Oh yes,
Packers, man. I always look forward to it. Home and away.
yeah. That's going to be a good game. I believe that's the Sky game as well at the 9:25 game.
Yes.
Um, Obviously we've got Tom Brady being indicted into the Patriots Ringer Hall of Fame, Ring of Fame for New England. Gutted that's not on telly. I would love to see that. So we're going to be finding that one on a certain box. Um, I'm actually intrigued by your game, if I'm truly honest.
Yes, I'm excited but nervous because I've just got. I'm a big fan of vibes, and I say this a lot in my classroom as well. That's why I always try and. Oh,
No, you're still there.
that's sorry. That's why I always try and give off positive vibes in the classroom because if you have one bagged egg, it can spoil the whole class. Like if you have one disruption, it can spoil a class. Now that one
Yeah.
disruption can, ilk into like another student, and then you can lose the whole concentration of a class of 32 kids. It only takes one bad egg to ruin vibes. So going into the off season, the whole thing around Trey Lance. Now, whether or not the players love Trey Lance or they already made up their mind with Brock Purdy. So you've also got people in that team that were quite close and quite tight with Jimmy Garoppolo. And you've got these little factions, these little divisions. Trey Lance has gone. How the team how do you think the team is going to feel about Bosa? Bosa held out for the entire offseason. Bosa hasn't trained. Bosa hasn't played in the preseason. Now, he's obviously naturally going to start. He's going to kit up on Sunday and he's going to be on that field, but he picked money over his team. And especially it was very highly publicized. Now, I'm happy that Bosa stayed, and the team probably will look and go, I'm happy that one of our best players is staying, but that ill feeling towards him, is everybody going to welcome him back with, open arms? So
No, I
it's
agree.
And, I'm a big fan of Kenny Pickett. I think the Steelers are going to be really, really strong this year. I do think the 49ers are Super Bowl favorites, but there's a lot of questions in this game, especially from like the San Francisco point of view. How is Brock Purdy's arm? How good is Nick Bosa going to be on the field? How's that offensive line going to look? Is Shanahan going to actually win the big one this year in Pittsburgh? Kenny Pickett, has he going to make that next step onto the next level of his development as a quarterback? Are they going to be a lot more threatening in the run game because they haven't really had that much of a run game? Have they actually got the right weapons to support Pickett? But also, is their defense still as stacked? So I think a lot of
Yeah.
teams have a lot of questions coming into this. I think it's going to be probably the best game of the weekend, genuinely. But I'm not going to say who I'm going to be pulling for because I want the 49ers to win, but I'm not confident that they are.
There's a couple of games that take me. Obviously, you've got you're going to have the number one pick overall, Bryce Young going against probably the most electric player in this draft this year
Yeah.
against Bijan Robinson. Bengals against the Browns is going to be interesting. That Browns rush against I don't think he's fully fit Joey Burrows.
Yeah.
How quick can he get? Because we know that he gives up a lot of, or that line gives up a lot of sacks on that guy.
I remember the run to the Super Bowl, and even in the Super Bowl, I remember like NFL pundits and commentators being legitimately blown away of like, how is Burrow playing this well when he has no protection? Like
That's
that's
ridiculous.
kind of what I think when a lot of people stood up and went, actually, Joe Burrow was really, really good because he was getting hit. Like on a series, you can guarantee that he was going to get hit at least once or twice because he
I
had no
think he
protection.
was I think he was definitely the Super Bowl run year. He was the most sacked player in the league.
Oh yeah, I was going to say, I remember in the AFC Championship game where even though they beat the Chiefs, he still had the living daylights kicked out of him because he had
Yeah.
no protection. Now he's got this injury. We don't really know how severe that injury was, because I think the Bengals did a really really good job of like hiding it, and he hasn't really given us too much of an in-depth analysis of how he's recouped from it. But yeah, I'd be I'm very tempted to not start him the weekend, Ollie, in my fantasy.
Well, you took San Francisco 49ers defense number 6 overall. Um,
I don't care.
I'm going to say 2.5 seasons because he was injured for half a season. How many times do you reckon Joey Burrow has been sacked?
I want to go in 2.5 years. I reckon he's been sacked 38 times.
142 times.
Mm.
He was sacked in his first season. So I've got ESPN stats on me. He was sacked 32 times in 10 games in his first year.
Jesus wept.
And then it was literally 51 times in the Super Bowl run and 41 times in the last year. Sorry, but Cincinnati, you really need to do something about that O-line. Yes, I understand them taking Jamar Chase, that connection, that helped. But seriously, you look after your franchise quarterback, otherwise you are going to have
Always.
another Andy Luck on your books.
Yeah.
We've seen how many times did Matt Stafford get absolutely pummeled in his early years in Detroit.
Yeah. Wasted his career because he literally stayed there for nearly a decade and had the living daylights kicked out of him.
Yeah. And we've seen probably a generational talent in Andy Luck leave this league far too early who hits. Cincinnati, you seriously need to do something about this, otherwise you're going to have no player whatsoever. It's going to be good to see Jacksonville. I think they're going to put Indianapolis to the absolute sword.
Agreed.
It's going to be interesting to see how Tampa Bay do under Baker Mayfield.
I want to like Baker Mayfield, but I don't think he's that good. Like I actually, do you know what? If I had an organization, I'm not joking here. I would definitely, if I had Baker Mayfield and Minshew in my QB room, I probably would pick Minshew as my starting quarterback.
Fair enough. Yep.
And do you know what? It's purely because, and so I know I didn't elaborate more. It's purely vibes. About like Baker Mayfield has this reputation for being an absolute mardy arse and will moan and complain a lot, whilst that would rub players up the wrong way. And if you are being, I mean, I've said this before about when I was at uni and our quarterback, we did not have a great relationship with. Like I played the defensive side, but I was really, really tight with the offensive line during that period before I switched to tight end. And I'm playing as like D end, and I would literally listen to him berate them like direct, like in training in the line of scrimmage, literally berate them because they weren't blocking or they weren't doing those assignments. But they hated him. They to the point where in practice they would sometimes, and I know this for a fact because I had it confirmed, they would let us go through and hit him in training or get to him in training because they hated him that much. Now, I'm not saying in a professional league that happens, but if you don't like your quarterback, if you don't like your leader, you're less likely to run through a wall for him. Now,
Yeah.
Minshew probably isn't as talented. I don't know why I've gone onto this thing. Gardner Minshew isn't as talented as Baker, but I tell you why he wouldn't complain. You'd
No.
probably run through a brick wall for him, and that's where I think the thing goes. I don't think Tampa, who have won a Super Bowl 3 years ago now, they won the Super Bowl 3 years, 2 or 3 years.
Yeah,
2 years.
3 years. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've still got a
21.
lot of players on that team that won a Super Bowl, and most of the people on that team played under Tom Brady, and Tom Brady is a serial winner. Now, going from a serial winner who will do anything to win to Baker Mayfield,
What
no
you
matter
mean?
how,
You'll have an advert in the stadium.
yeah, exactly. So like,
Progress.
yeah, going from that to that, you go, Jesus Christ, like, what? How have I ended up here? Like, how have I gone from Tom Brady to the guy that the Browns got rid of?
It's interesting because going back to team friendly deals, blah blah blah. You would see Baker Mayfield not being a player who would take a team friendly deal.
Yeah,
Money, 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 money. Um, it's battle of the second of the NFC East, I think, on Sunday Night Football. Dallas against New York. I think whoever finishes second in that or wins the matchups between them will finish second in their division
yeah,
behind Philadelphia. Unfortunately, I think Philadelphia are going to lose tomorrow, Sunday night.
I
I
think
think
so as
that's
well.
it's that Tom Brady effect coming in New England. I think that's just the thing that I mean. We'll talk about New York and Buffalo on Monday night show properly with the other two guys. We're going full on in depth of it and go into it that way. Apart from that game, anything else? And obviously we've talked about other ones. Anything that you really want to see? What do you expect to see from
Yeah, I
this
want
week's
I want to
football?
watch the McDaniel's derby, Raiders versus Broncos, because you've got
Oh yeah,
two you've got two very beaten up, very overrated teams that are coming on into the season very underwhelming.
yeah.
I'm I don't rate Russell Wilson anymore. I think the fact that the Raiders get, I'm really sorry, Raiders fans, but we told you about Jimmy Garoppolo and you still signed him anyway, and lo and behold, they're already done with him. You've got the stuff with Chandler Jones, you've got the stuff that's still going on in Denver, and I just think it's going to just be, I don't, it's not a tank bowl, but it's going to be literally the definition of the battle of mid to underwhelming.
Meh.
Um, and I just think both organizations are a joke, and sometimes when you watch two joke organizations go at it, it can be quite entertaining because you're just laughing at how bad it could be.
So John made a really interesting point. But if the Bengals offense has a loss of the ball, wouldn't he get sacked more? He would be given them more of a chance to get sacked more.
Yeah.
But as Phil said, your O line needs to do the job as well. Needs to protect him. I'm not saying they don't like because I think he's got a very
I
likable
was going to
guy.
say,
To
I think Joe
complete.
Cool is, I think it's more of the structure and the ability and the play calling at Cincinnati. I don't think it's got anything to do with how
Yeah,
liked he is. I mean, if you put Joe Burrow next to someone like Baker Mayfield, you can probably tell who's the more likable one out of the two of them. I'm not saying Baker's not, but like you could probably just get those feelings for it. What the Bengals are really good at doing is also a balance of what they're not very good at doing. The Bengals are great at moving the chains.
yeah,
They will have more possession purely because if you sack Burrow and it's 5 yards and it's second and 15, well, the next play they're going to go 10 and it'll
10,
be like
12
three and
yards. Yeah,
five. And on that third down, they'll make that five. So they'll lose yardage but they'll get it back. So it's almost like one step backwards, two step forwards with the Bengals. They're just not great at protecting Burrow, but Burrow and his offensive weapons are amazing at moving the chains. That's where sometimes possession of the ball can be quite like a grey area in the NFL, because you can go, well, they've had like 20 minutes of the ball in this half. Yeah, but how much of that was
Going
negative
backwards.
yardage?
Yeah.
How much of that is, injuries or penalties or being penalized, or 3rd and 15, and you're kind of having to make the yardage from that point of view. So that's why I sometimes think stats can be I am a stat guy, but stats can be very much misleading. They're just great at moving the chains.
I'm just chuckling what John just said. Will they swap Burrows for Jimmy G?
I tell you what, we talk about going from Brady to Baker Mayfield being a massive step down. I'm not joking. Cincinnati, if you got rid of Burrows for Jimmy Garoppolo, that's probably the same type of scale. Like, well, we're laughing in San Francisco, going, "Oh man, last year we had Garoppolo, Lance, and Purdy, who was Mr. Irrelevant. Now Mr. Irrelevant's our starting quarterback. Yeah, that's good. Like, I don't think of a 49er fan that would have, as much as what happened with Trey Lance was a negative thing. I don't think the 49ers fans would ever start Trey Lance over Brock Purdy. And
No,
I like Trey, but he was never going to beat Brock Purdy.
no.
So I'm happy with that. But yeah, I'm a big fan. Yeah, I'll stop talking now.
Love it when you talk, mate. It's great. It is prediction times. We have brought this back for yet again. We have the two reigning champions of the last 2 years on tonight's show. It's
I know.
ironic, isn't it?
I know. It's almost like we know what we're talking about, Ollie, and and the other two
It's not
don't.
pure like at all. So the 4 games are tonight's game. Couldn't choose that one. It had to be Lions against Chiefs. You got Green Bay against the Bears, Falcons against the Panthers, and Monday Night Football Bills against the Jets.
Yeah.
May let you change between now and then, but I'll take them now anyway. Obviously, Shane and Ollie have given me their answers. I will not give you their answers until we've run through ours.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go for tonight's game. With or without Kelce, it's two very different propositions there, isn't it?
I'm I I'm gonna go Chiefs.
You're going KC.
I'll go KC.
So Shano is the only gentleman out of the 4 of us who's gone for Detroit. Denver, that would have been interesting. Detroit. The rest of us have gone KC. I think they will be suiting at KC, and I think he will play some part of the game tonight. I don't think you're going to see full Kelce at tilt. Which
I mean,
is
the fact is, even without Kelce, the Chiefs on that offense have a ridiculous amount of weapons. The only question mark around Kansas is I generally don't think their defense is as strong as it was when they won the Super Bowl.
No.
And that's just kind of it. I mean, it's almost it's like a great system. We talk about like the system of the Patriots being so consistent. You sort your defense right, you make sure that's consistent, you sort out your secondary, and then you just have that systematic kind of like offensive work that
Yep.
McDaniels and Brady worked wonders to, and you won your 6 Super Bowls within 17 years.
Something like
Was
that.
it
Yeah.
was it 6 and 17? That's perfect. Defense is right. Kansas City, you're always going to have Patrick Mahomes, and even when he's injured, he is still better than 2/3 of the quarterback in the league. So you always know that it's the defense that I'm really, really suspicious of going into this. But I don't think Detroit have a strong enough offense to really, really.
There was always a phrase with United, and this is how it ran United, and this is it reminds me. Casey reminded me of it. You score 4, we'll score 5 situations. So it's automatically, I don't care how many touchdowns you're going to score, we're going to score more of you.
Yeah.
And that was prevalent when they played the LA Rams. It was Goff against Mahomes, and it was something like 51-49 or something stupid like that. It was a ridiculous game. It was Monday Night Football. It was probably one of the best games. That is Andy Reid's philosophy. We will outscore you.
Yeah. That was Kevin Keegan's philosophy as well. You score 3, we'll score 4.
Yep. Next game, we are going to Green Bay for Green Bay against... no, we're not going to Chicago for Chicago against Green Bay.
Um, hmm, you know what, I don't think the Bears are going to be even better this year. I think the biggest myth in the NFL is the fact that Justin Fields is good. I don't think Justin Fields is good. He does one great thing in a game, and then he does 15 things that remind you that he's not particularly all there. I think Green Bay will win.
Green Bay, you are the only one going for Green Bay.
I just think Green Bay just owns Chicago. Like I just, it's not Aaron Rodgers. It's just Green Bay. Other than the fact, the last time the Bears were relevant was 1985, and that was a long, long time ago. Um, I generally just I think the Packers are just not much better, but I think they'll win the weekend.
So Kelly's going for Lions to shock the Super Bowl champs. That's probably
And Kelly, don't get me wrong, I really want them to as well because I want Kansas City to burn. But if I'm trying to retain my crown like I did last year, I've got to go with my head over my heart.
Yep. And John is going for the Chiefs, but I wanted to say Lions, but Mahomes isn't it. It's Mahomes, isn't it? Bears,
Yeah,
Panthers, Jets
exactly. I
is
feel
other
the
ones.
same way, John. Yeah.
Dylan Singh on YouTube is asking, who is our favourite team? We are New England Patriots, which is over my right shoulder here, and Phil is a San Francisco 49ers. Thank you for joining in. Right. Next is Atlanta against Carolina.
Atlanta.
Oh, I am the only one thinking the Bryce Young effect is going to take effect. He is going to hook up with Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen is going to score, have a 100 receiving yard game, a couple of touchdowns. They're going to win it by 2 scores, I think. I think Carolina, you're going to have that rookie bounce for his first game. And I think this is going to be it. You're going to see Bryce Young because he didn't look started at all. If you watch him in preseason, yes, Ollie always goes, this preseason is nothing. But if you watch his dropbacks, it was so casual. It was literally, I'm just going to walk back, take his 4 or 5 steps, walk back. It looked effortless. Bryce Young, there was no issues with that one. And the last game is Monday Night Football. Buffalo against New York.
Do you know what? New York. I think Aaron Rodgers starts with a bang.
Yeah, I've gone exactly the same. The other two have gone Buffalo. Ollie and Shane have gone Buffalo.
That's a weak mindset, Ollie. That's a weak mindset.
Yeah, I just think, I mean, I've watched Aaron Rodgers and Hard Knocks. You get into the last episodes of it tonight where they got the cuts. I generally think there's something cooking in New York, and it's a little bit scary. A little bit scary. Let's see how long they can ride this crest and how quick they can cut into it and all that. It's going to be very, very interesting on that one.
And I mean, I said on the show a couple of weeks ago, I've massively changed my opinion of Aaron Rodgers to the point where I was genuinely considering buying a Jets jersey with his name on the back.
Oops.
Like that's how much I've done a 180. I don't know whether or not it's the Green Bay effect of me just hating Green Bay.
We all like Green
But
Bay.
I've really changed my opinion on Aaron Rodgers, and I really want them to do well.
Pardon me. Kelly's gone for Jets 2. She's gone Jets 2. Jets, unfortunately, are going to be good this season. Yeah,
I knew I liked you, Kelly. I knew there was a reason why I liked you.
It's interesting. There is something about Aaron Rodgers looks very, very different in the white and then he did of the green of Green Bay. You know,
Yeah.
He brought in his two mates, Lazard and Randall Cobb. So it's something like that. Yeah, and as Kelly said, his Hard Knocks effect he's come across really well, and he really, really, really has.
And I think that's sometimes, sorry, just going back onto Hard Knocks, I think that's the benefit of it sometimes because you can actually humanize. Because I think back to like when I was younger, and I don't think it's really the same now in professional sports, but we had like our own sporting idols that we would look up to. So like, I looked up to like Alan Shearer. Like Alan Shearer was like God to me, and He was like a sporting idol, and like in the NFL, Steve Young. I mean, he was left-handed. I'm left-handed. Oh my God, I could be Steve Young. Even watching like pro wrestling, like I fell in love with like Rowdy Roddy Piper and Macho Man because of just how their characters were. I looked up to them, and I think because how corporate all professional sports is, you have that like, segregation between the fans and the actual players, and that's where I think shows like Hard Knocks do wonders for certain players' perceptions because I bashed Aaron Rodgers a lot last year, and
Everyone did. Everyone did.
but I also bashed his character, and now watching him on like Hard Knocks and I go, actually, he's actually really good. Like he's entertaining, he's funny, he cares. Like he can be a bit of a hipster weirdo, but I can stand accused. But he's actually come across well to the point now where I want him to win. The same thing with like the Bengals when with Joe Burrow. I really like Joe Burrow because I got to see his character. When it was the Cowboys a couple of years ago with Dak, and it was the whole thing about him coming back from his injury, I really felt and related to Dak, and part of me wanted him, not the Cowboys, wanted him to do really, really well. So that's kind of where I really, really like Hard Knocks because it actually can personalize the players that we don't really get to see that much of who they really are. We just get to see them for 60 minutes on a Sunday.
Yeah, most definitely. We are less than 3 hours away from kickoff tonight. Can't wait! It's going to be brilliant. Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not going to stay up and watch it. I do
Nope,
apologize.
I'm going to watch the highlights in the morning, baby, because I've got school in the morning.
Nice.
Oh, so why are you so tired? Because I watched the NFL last night, guys, and it was worth it.
Oh, yes. I just realised the Will linebackers in Kansas City Chiefs are called Willie Gay and BJ Thompson. That is such a childish way of me calling that one. They couldn't have put that anyway. Yeah, we will be back on Monday night now because it is the season, so we are back to 2 weeks, 2 shows a week. Get it right in a minute.
All about that.
All 4 of us hopefully should be all back on. I don't think Ollie and Shano are working. Hopefully Shano
one wouldn't be working again. You have to find out who next time we're on. Ooh.
Oh, yes.
Why? John's just gone, sir, why are you so tired and still drunk? I'm a professional. I'm a professional, John Lewis. I literally will brush my teeth and eat a lot of toast to sober myself up, okay? I have never been hungover going into school. Fact.
The amount of times I've gone out on a Worcester on a Friday night and walled into work after 2 hours sleep, still bouncing off the walls. Yeah.
It was a couple of years ago. It was my first year in teaching, actually. Because I was working in the Midlands, they have different. They had a different Easter break than we did. As I do down here now. So normally I'm used to WrestleMania being on over the Easter break, whilst WrestleMania this one year was happening during Easter term time. Well, it was the kids were still at school. So I was going, oh crap. So it was a Riley's in Wolverhampton. I watched WrestleMania 31 at Riley's, and it was about 4:30 when it finished. So I'm going, all right, I need to get a taxi home because I need to get at least 3 hours sleep before, 3 hours sleep, enough sleep before I then woke up to then go to school the next day. No taxi service whatsoever in town at 4:30 in the morning. So then I walked from town all the way back to where I was staying, which was a good hour walk. I actually walked past my school on the way to going to where I was staying, and I then got in, couldn't sleep, woke up like an hour early. I was just staying great, so I literally went into school, taught a full day's worth of teaching, whilst having no sleep and so tired. Not drunk because I knew I had to get up the next day, but I was so tired, and that was the worst I've ever felt. I know.
John's gone. Too many Pepsis in brackets.
Too many Pepsis. That's literally why I'm Pepsi Phil.
Pepsi Phil. That's your name for now, mate.
Pepsi. I might actually get a Pepsi tattoo like CM Punk. Like literally, I might find somewhere on my little sleeve to put a little Pepsi logo.
Right, we will be back 8:30 Monday night to review Week 1 action. We will be dropping something new coming out this week. Obviously, we had Catch of the Week last week. We are now changing it to expanding it to Play of the Week.
Yeah.
Sacks, runs, whatever. I don't really mind. Do you have to Got to go to bed though.
Do you have what was that like? Do you have to get it if you don't go to bed? What do you mean?
I have no idea.
John, can
That's
you just
time.
rephrase that before we go off air? Because I actually want to answer this question. What? Do you have to get it if you don't go to bed? What, sleep? When it comes to coursework season, I very rarely sleep normal hours because I will work really, really late nights. All right, we'll
Awesome.
live and leave it.
Cool. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we're back Monday, 8:30. This will be live or going live on Spotify. Any other way you have to listen to your podcast. But for now, ladies and gentlemen, stay safe.